All right, hello everybody. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Elaine and I will be talking about our TEDx Happy Hour course. This is Elaine Bennett.
Hi.
And I'm Maureen Contreras. So yeah, as you guys get settled in here, you'll see at the bottom there's a chat and there's a Q&A, so you're welcome to answer your questions. We'll be answering questions about our TEDx Happy Hour course. So Elaine is an award-winning speechwriter. She's worked more than 30 years in the corporate world. She's written speeches for little people like Warren Buffett.
little people.
She's also a TEDx speaker, and she's written many TEDx talks. I am a TEDx booker and ideation consultant, and I'm also a two-time TEDx speaker and also have been a TEDx organizer. Today we're here to talk about TEDx, and I know we're all social distancing and we're all sheltered in place, but it's actually a really great time to be working on your idea. And it's actually also a great time to be pitching, ironically enough. TED is being great about extending licenses and honoring postponements from TEDx organizers. So there's no better time to be thinking about your idea worth spreading. And the TEDx Happy Hour is just another way to do that in a way that's affordable and fun, and hopefully in a supportive environment. So the question that I get asked a lot when people hear what I do, I don't know about you, Elaine, is they're like, oh, I would love to give a TEDx talk. That's on my bucket list, right?
Yeah, everybody wants to give a TED. I don't know. I've got musical theater running through my brain today. I'm sorry.
I like that. No, totally. Everybody wants to give a TED talk, right? And then the next thing I say is, well, I'm not famous, or I don't have a platform, or and neither did Simon Sinek, neither did Brene Brown, neither did Mel Robbins before they gave their TED Talks. The TEDx platform is what launched them. And of course, they had a great idea, but the point of TEDx, with TEDx being independently organized TED-style talks, is that anybody can do it.
Not anybody.
Well, anybody with an idea.
Yeah, anybody with an idea. Anybody with an idea who pitches it in a savvy and appropriate way.
Right.
You can't just walk out from your kitchen, wipe the flour off your hands, and say, "Hi, I'm here to give my TED talk."
Right.
You need to have some thought put behind it, and that's what we do with people. Is we help them. Marie helps them figure out their idea, and I help them put their idea into words. And then Marie pitches, and
yep.
She is the Nolan Ryan of TEDx picture. Actually, she's better than Nolan Ryan. What's your earn run average here? You got a
my my batting average is, I guess it's 1,000, right?
Yeah, you're betting 1,000. Yep. Yep.
I don't know sports ball very well, so
everybody who so far. Everybody Marie has accepted as a client has gone on to deliver at least one TED Talk, TEDx talk. And the reason that is because Marie is really good at picking clients. She does not just pick anybody. And so, but this thing that we're doing right now, the TEDx Happy Hour, really is open for anybody, because we wanted to create a thing that people could do while we're in limbo here. And either, hey, wouldn't it be fun to give a TEDx talk? Let me see what I got. Or I have an idea already. Let me see if it's workable. And work on it. So you can do this if you really seriously want to give a TED talk. And Rune, I know you're a speechwriter, so probably you're in that category. Or if you're just want to try something out for fun, sort of like, I don't know, learning how to belly dance without having to show your belly.
It's a great
Don't
metaphor.
mind me. It's been a strange day.
Yeah, exactly. So the course is kind of designed to get what you want out of it, whether it's, just kind of an opportunity to learn and try it in a low pressure environment, or if you really want our feedback, we will give you the feedback, So, yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the structure and sort of how we're going to structure the course?
Yeah, so first I want to say that while this webinar today is to give you information about the program that we're launching May 6th, we also respect your time and that you have given us your attention for this time. And so we want you to be able to walk away with something really useful and that you can use whether you pursue the program with us or whether you don't, something that you can have and use for whatever you do, wherever you do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is our goal today, is to leave you with some really valuable information, and also to tell you about the program that we're doing that will give you even more valuable information.
Mm-hmm.
And so really the way the TEDx Happy Hour program is set up is Marie starts, it's at least a 4-week program. We might go to 5 weeks depending on how many participants we have sign up, because at the end of it all, everybody who's in the program will deliver a 5-minute TED Talk, or a 5-minute beginning of a TEDx talk. Either it's a mini TEDx talk that's complete in itself, or it's the beginning of articulating your idea. So Marie will start off with the ideation thing, and then in the second week, I will talk about how to find your idea, how to find ideas in the world. There are so many ideas around, and the thing is that when somebody says to you, "Hey, what can you talk about for 10 minutes?" You're likely to say,
Yeah.
but the truth is there's lots of things that you could talk about for 10 minutes or more if you didn't have that part of your brain saying, "Oh my God, they want me to speak," or "Oh my God, what, I don't know anything and somebody else knows way more than I do." And
Mm-hmm.
So part of it is letting go of those pieces of those voices in your head that don't serve you. And we all have those voices whatever kind of creative work we do. If you're writing anything, I guarantee you've encountered those voices. So it's getting rid of those. And it's also learning how to find an idea that is an idea that only you can articulate. For instance, lots of people want to talk about motivational topics, right, Marie? Talk a little bit about the many motivational topics that...
You mean the motivation problem and the mindfulness problem? So I joke and I call it that, right? I say, because the number of people that have come to me and said, "I want to talk about mindfulness," right? I tell them to go to the TEDx YouTube. I tell them to Google, TEDx and mindfulness, or TEDx and motivation, and watch the many, many talks that there are, and see if they're actually saying something that hasn't been already said, right? A TEDx talk is not just a motivational speech. It's not just, here's my story and here's what I've lived through, right? Although both of those things can be elements, you really need, number one, you need some really strong, actionable, and global takeaways. So you need to be speaking to everyone, right? Or if you're speaking at a women's event, you speak to all women, right? And then you need a unique story. And the unique story is the part that you help with, right? With finding something, because when you have the unique takeaways and everything like that, plus the story, that's a talk nobody else can give. And a really good example is the talk that you gave.
Thank you.
So tell us about that.
Well, Marie was organizing a TEDx event, and her theme was changing the paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sat down and I thought, what ways has the paradigm, and that's a very large topic, very broad, but what has happened in my life that has changed the way I have thought about the world? And I remembered a book that I read 30 years ago when I was just starting out as a speechwriter. And the authors of that book just, like, they unscrewed my head and blew out the dust and screwed it back on again. It was that profound a change in the way I looked at the world. And so I wrote my speech, or I pitched my idea at first around that. And I knew two things. I knew that no one else in the world was going to pitch that idea in that way, because I was starting with something that had happened to me. And other people, I hope, read the book, and other people, I hope, had reactions, but I was talking about my reaction and the ways that it changed me. And no one else has that perspective to do that. And the second thing I knew was that if Marie invited me to speak, she was going to have me as the first speaker, because I really made sure to articulate the theme that she said she wanted the day to express.
That's exactly right.
And the closer you can engineer your pitch and then your speech to what the organizer says the theme of the day is, that will also distinguish you from the thousands of other people who apply.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's a really good point, because even if, for argument's sake, if I wanted to give the talk, in order to change the paradigm, we have to change our language, right? I still could not give the same talk you gave, because you're telling a story that happened to you, and if I tried to tell, if I tried to open my speech with, 30 years ago, I read a book, right? It wouldn't make sense, right? And if I was talking about this book that I read in a time when, that I didn't actually experience or live through, right? That comes across as disingenuous. So that's how you start to get the intellectual property thing of this, right? Like that's something nobody can ever take from you. Even if they can reference you, sure, they can say, in her TED Talk, she says this, right? But they can't take that story away from you.
Actually, there is a story, and I won't say the name of the politician, but a while back, maybe 30 years ago, a politician who was running for president delivered a speech, and his speechwriters handed it to him, and apparently he didn't read it before he got up on the stump. And all of a sudden, he finds himself reading the words, "Well, my father was a coal miner," and blah, blah, blah. And his father was not a coal miner. And everybody knew that his father was not a coal miner. And so they're like, why is he saying his father was a coal miner?
Right.
And it turned out that one of his people had copied a speech from some British politician.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Father was a coal miner.
Yep.
And yes, and someone just pointed out that Melania did that with Michelle Obama's speech. And, you don't get away with it for very long.
No.
Certainly not in the age of Google. But and especially if you're talking about a large issue, how to change the world to make it, how to change language to make it more inclusive of everyone in the world. That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
But the closer you can get to a human impact from that issue, that's where you want to start, because the audience is human. And you need to connect with them. You may need to make an impact on them with what you're saying. So get as close to humans as you can, and that's where you want to start. And probably.
So this is all reminding me. I once took a stand-up comedy class, And, so, it was like a workshop. So each student would get up for 5 minutes or whatever. And one student got up and he said, so my therapist, and he started a joke about his therapist. And the teacher goes, you don't have a therapist, do you? And he said, no. And she said, I know. And so like, even something like that, if you're being disingenuous, now, of course, a stand-up comedy class is not your TED Talk, right? But it's the same principle where you can't, you can't fake that stuff, right? Like if I tell you I have a therapist and I don't have a therapist, you're going to know, unless I'm a very, very good actor, you're going to know that there's something off, right? So you do want to infuse yourself into that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. One key tell that you don't have a therapist is that when you say my therapist says, and then there's this whole long sentence that comes out, really, my therapist says, mm-hmm. That's another good point though about comedy in speeches, because people are always, you always hear you've got to start out with a joke.
Yeah.
And yes and no.
Yeah.
You want to make a connection with your audience as quickly as you can, and one way to do that is to get them to have an emotion, and the most valuable emotion there is probably laughter, because you don't want to get them to cry. They'll ignore you. They won't be focused on the rest of what you have to say. But whatever funny story you tell, which is more likely to be a funny story than a joke. It has to relate absolutely to the content of what you're talking about. Right. You can't just like come out there and like your own warm-up comic and tell a joke and then start a speech. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and I would add, I've worked with people before who have said to me, hey, can you think of a way for me to make this funny? And my answer is always no, because I can't make you be funny. If you're not funny, don't tell a joke, or don't try to tell a funny story if that's not where your strength is. Because and I don't want to speak for you as a speechwriter, but my guess is that you probably wouldn't write a joke for somebody if they're not going to tell it well.
No, that's the perfect way to have them not have success with a speech.
Yeah. So
I try to, when I'm working with clients, I try to focus on funny stories that are true, and that relate to them and or the content of what they're going to be speaking about. So that's my little tip. So after week 2, we have week 3, which is just a Q&A session with both of us, and you can ask us whatever questions have come up for you in the writing of your 5-minute TED Talk, and we'll work through that. And then week 4, we have our TEDx Happy Hour, and bring your own beverage and deliver your 5-minute talk. And if you want some feedback from us or from other members of the group, then you can say that and we will oblige. And if you just want to be able to get up and say some words in front of people because you've never done that before, and you want to do it in a supportive environment, then we will clap.
So that's the 4 weeks. And, so first of all, you'll have fun because we think we're fun. We're fun to spend time with. Second of all,
hopefully you've figured that out by now.
And second of all, you'll come out of it with 5 minutes worth of a speech, and that you're welcome to use it as the basis for your eventual TEDx talk, or it could be just a standalone 5-minute. There are definitely some really great 5-minute TED Talks out there. A friend of ours just gave one late last year, or it could be the basis of something else. TED style talks can be the foundation for a lot of things. They could be the foundation for your keynote. They could be the foundation for your stand-up comedy act if that's for you.
Oh, great, great. I can see it on my LinkedIn. Elaine Bennett, Warren Buffett loves her, and she also teaches stand-up
Yeah.
comedy.
I mean, stranger things have happened, so.
I suppose. Speaking of length,
Mm-hmm.
the sort of the people always think of TED Talks as being maybe 18 minutes long. I think 12 is the new 18, and maybe 8 is the new 12. But whenever you're speaking in any venue, you want to make sure that every word that you're saying has to be said.
Yeah.
You don't want any filler, because the audience will figure out that it's filler and they will zone right out. You've done it yourself. I'm not pointing at you, Marie, but I'm sure other people on this call have done it. You're in a ballroom listening to some guy drone on about how wonderful his company is, and you're like, okay, but what's in it for me? Or my biggest pet peeve probably is somebody who starts out the speech by saying thank you to everybody. And to me, that's just giving the audience permission to tune out, because unless you're one of those people who expects to be thanked, you're not going to pay attention to, you don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
You're not going to pay attention to this list of names. So you never want to give the audience permission to stop listening to you, because it's so hard to get them back after they've gone away.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that every word that you say adds value to your idea or to the audience.
That's a great point. And I would even say you do want to think about this as you want to think of this as a performance, right? It's not a keynote. Your TEDx is a chance for you to be creative. And no matter what, you are getting on a stage, right? You're getting on a stage, you're standing up in front of people. So you do want to memorize it as if you were giving a Shakespeare's monologue or whatever it is, right? And you do want to practice that much, and you do want to think of it as, okay, I'm putting on this persona, I'm going on stage. You're basically playing yourself. So.
And when we work with people in longer programs, we do get into some of that that performance coaching. Marie had a great idea I'd never heard of, which is practicing your speech while you've got the television on in the background, so that you have that ambient noise that you have to shut out and focus on your speech.
Because the truth is that even no matter how quiet that room is that you're delivering your TEDx talk in, it's not silent, right? So if you're used to practicing in your bedroom in a mirror,
and your dog is looking at you lovingly.
Right. Exactly. It's going to be different, and it's going to be jarring. So to practice with, and also the other benefit of having ambient noise on, whether it's a TV show or whatever the case is, you can only half pay attention to what you're saying. So if you can say it perfectly while you're half paying attention, then you've got it. So we had a couple of questions come in, and I'm wondering if
let's see.
So Elaine, what's the common structure of a talk? For instance, start, middle, end.
Yes. So there are lots of different structures for a talk. Sometimes you can start in the middle, if that's the most dramatic part of your story. I found myself falling down the face of a mountain, and then there was a tree branch I latched onto. That's gonna capture your audience right away, because obviously the tree branch held, or you wouldn't be standing on the TED stage. But they want to know how you got from hanging on the side of a mountain to being all dressed up and standing on the TED stage. So you want to find the most interesting place to start your story, and a place that will bring people in. And one great way to bring people in is to have a mystery. One of the books that I recommend to people is called Made to Stick by Tim Heath, by the Heath brothers, Dan and somebody Heath.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more about marketing messages, but they have a mnemonic for the things that you want to put in a good message, and it's success. So you want story, unexpectedness, concreteness, conciseness,
Mm-hmm.
emotionality, and stories. So you want to try and put all of those things in and really come around back to the most satisfying structure for me is when it comes back full circle.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other ways to end a speech too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the short answer is it depends, right?
Yeah. The short answer is yes, you want a beginning, a middle, and an end, but whether or not you use them in that order it depends on a lot of things.
Yeah. So we had a couple of questions about length of TED Talks, and of course you had mentioned 12 is the new 18, which I've heard as well. But officially, a TED style talk is 18 minutes or less. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 8 minutes, it could be 12, it could be 18. I don't recommend going over, because you can get your if the organizer uploads it, it could get flagged. And that can mean that it's never put up, right? So you want to stay within the parameters. If the organizer tells you for some reason to not do 18 minutes, like I've been on events before where they've said we want a 10-minute talk, respect what the organizer wants, because events are all different lengths. I'm seeing a trend toward 12 minutes being the time frame. But if you have an 18-minute idea, and you're able to share that 18-minute idea at an event, go for it.
I would say I would try to go as short as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Write your 18-minute talk and then let it sit for a day or two and look at it again and see if it really needs to be 18 minutes. And you can, cut out some unnecessary words. You don't necessarily have to throw away whole paragraphs or whole ideas, but you also don't want to have too many ideas in in any kind of speech, because people can only take in so much.
Right.
So I would rather see somebody deliver a really solid 5 to 8 minute speech and want more from them at the end than have them wander on vocally for 8 minutes just because they think they need to fill that time.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. Because like you said before, you don't want to give people a reason to tune you out. And that's a very good reason for people to stop listening, right? And even though it's not all about what happens in the room, but you will feel the air in the room change. You'll feel the energy in the room go down if people start tuning you out. So and the people watching the video will feel that, because they'll feel your energy. So I would shorter is better in my book as well. So
what do you need to make a successful pitch, Marie? That's a good question for you.
Yeah. So every TEDx organizer is allowed to have whatever submission process that they want. And that ranges from as simple as an email or a LinkedIn message to the organizer, and as complex as a Google Doc with a Google form with like lots of questions, or a submission form on their website. But generally, there are things that most organizers want. And so when I'm working with my clients, I have them prepare 3 things. The first thing is their 1-sentence idea worth spreading. Actually, 4 things. So 1-sentence idea worth spreading. My idea worth spreading is, finish that sentence. And if you can't get it in 1 sentence or maybe 2, then your idea is too big. Your 1-paragraph blurb. So anywhere from 3 to 4 sentences to about 300 to 500 words about your idea, and then a 1 to 2 minute video of you talking about your idea. And that's something that almost every TEDx organizer wants. They want something that is unedited. It's either on your webcam, you can record it right in Zoom, or on your iPhone. I recommend a couple of teleprompter apps that work really nicely so that you can read. You don't have to memorize your 2-minute spiel. But they want to see you talking about the idea, and it's very, very important. Don't edit it. Don't add any, bells and whistles or anything like that. And then the fourth thing is your bio and ancillary material. So if you have a speaker reel, or if you have a podcast that you've been on that you really love, or any media or anything like that, include that. You may not always have the chance to submit it, but if they ask for anything else you'd like for us to see, or anything else you'd like for us to know, some of them do give you the opportunity to submit other things. So you want to position yourself in the best light.
That's funny. When you said bells and whistles, I pictured somebody submitting a TED reel with the pussycat filter on Instagram.
Oh, no. Don't do that.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. But also do pay attention to what the organizer says they want. Can you tell my favorite story, please?
I know there are two. So I guess I'll tell both of them. The first one is that so when I was accepting submissions for TEDx Marriage Women, somebody submitted, and I required a video, and I was very specific about what I wanted. I wanted them to say, "Hi, TEDx Marriage Women," and then say their pitch. And the person submitting said, "I don't have the time to create a video for you. Here's my 45-minute webinar. And if you like my idea, I will create a video for you." And, you have to think of this as like applying for a job or applying to college. I mean, I was a first-time organizer, and I got about 100 applications. So that person, I didn't even consider it. I was like, they don't have what I need. I'm moving on. You really have to think about that. This is your dream job. It's applying to college. It is. So don't give the organizer a reason to pass your application up. So the other favorite story is that TEDx Marriage Women is a women's event, women's issues, women's speakers. I had a man submit and apply. And he said, "I'm not a woman, but I have raised 4 daughters and have 4 female cats, so I can speak to women's issues." If you're wrong for an event for any reason, it's a waste of everybody's time to tell the organizer the reason that they're wrong about that and why they should have you anyway. So just don't do that.
I know, as a father of daughters and a cat father, I know more about women than
women do.
But
yes.
the other one, the woman who wanted you to watch, the person who wanted you to watch a 45-minute webinar rather than take 10 minutes and do the work herself,
right,
to make a video for you. I mean, that's just, seems to me that it's basic common sense.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody to do the work to hire you. You want to make it really easy for them. All right, enough of that.
Exactly.
We have a couple of other some good questions coming in. Let's see what my impression is that themes are decided based on what submission you have already. Is that true?
That depends. So some organizers pick their themes at the outset and they say, "I'm looking for talks on XYZ." And that's what I did. I said, my theme is changing the paradigm. What some organizers will do is they'll see what submissions they get, and then they'll decide on their speakers, and then they'll decide on a theme. So if you see a theme on the TEDx website, and this is going to go into the other question of how do I figure out which TEDx event I should speak at, go to TEDx.com/events and look up all the events in your area, in the country, in the world, if you're willing to travel that far, and see which themes resonate. If they don't have a theme, apply anyway. And that's my best advice. If they do have a theme, include a sentence as to why you think your idea fits with the theme. That's really helpful. It really goes a long way because the organizer doesn't have to think about that. They just
Right.
see the connection.
Make it easy for the organizer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how do we know if an event is coming up? You look at the website, and
Exactly.
what's the usual time frame?
That really runs the gamut. I've, the first TEDx talk I gave, I knew I was giving it in January, and I gave it in August, and that's a long time frame. Most of them are in the ballpark of 2 to 3 months, and even as close as 2 weeks. I don't recommend doing that because nobody can practice a speech in 2 weeks and do it really, really well. So, what I recommend is, stick to the 2 or 3 month time frame.
Yeah. Do all TEDx talks get posted online or only select speakers? And is there anything you can do to ensure you get more views long term? Oh, if we had the answer to that, we could charge a whole lot more for this program.
Yeah, unfortunately, views are a special thing, right? Views are, there's a secret sauce to, the algorithms and things like that. One of the things that you can do is make sure that, on the first day, have people comment, right? Have people like things, reply to the comments. That helps you in the algorithm. But sometimes it's just, luck of the draw, and your idea is what people really, really wanted to hear and really, really needed, and then you just go viral, right?
Yeah.
There's no control over that. There was another part to that question, right?
Oh, let's see. Look under answered.
Let me see. Do all
There's
TEDx talks get posted online? And they all get posted on the TEDx YouTube as long as they're in compliance. But select ones get posted on TED.com. So, and Elaine's is posted on TED.com. Growth hacking for getting more views. Read Parul Agarwal's book. So Parul actually spoke at our event, and she's got like 100 and I don't even know how many thousand.
Over 100,000 views now. And
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. So clearly she knows something about getting more views.
So
anything else?
Other questions?
So do you recommend visual aids or just a talk without? I think I'll answer this and then you share what you think.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a big fan of using slides when I'm writing for other people, mm-hmm. because I want people to be focused on my speaker, not on the slide screen behind them. That said, when I did my TEDx talk, I did use slides because I was using some terms that might not be familiar to the audience, and so I wanted to make sure that they knew the words that I was saying. So I broke my own rule there, but I also, I didn't leave unrelated slides up behind me for 15-minute, well, it wasn't even a 15-minute talk, but for long stretches of time. Once I passed the point where the slide was illustrating, I would put up a black slide. So, but what do you think, Marie?
I think slides can be helpful, but not much, right? So it should just be a word or a picture or a graph or something. Like I've done both. I've done both ways. My first talk, I only had pictures and visual aids to things like if I was describing what a saxophone looked like, I would have a picture of a saxophone, and then my second talk, I had bullet points, and you could just feel the room stop looking at me and look up at the slides. So I don't recommend having too much. Less is really more when it comes to that.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you don't want to have the slides be a crutch for you. Mm-hmm. You want to be able to deliver your speech seamlessly, even if the power goes out and there are no slides.
Right.
in the worst case scenario. You just want to be able to get your words across. So
Absolutely.
maybe, but be careful, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What are the most common mistakes people make when pitching a TED Talk? And what are the most common mistakes when starting to write your talk? Why don't you take the first part there?
Common mistakes, you know, kind of what we jokingly outlined earlier, right? Don't not give the organizers what they need. Don't if an event has a theme, make sure to respect the theme. So if you can't make your talk fit for a certain theme, don't apply to that TEDx event. There are so many happening all year round, all the time. So really look for the ones that make the most sense for you.
Yeah. And before I get to the second part of that question, we have another. Could you clarify the website on TED to go look at for upcoming talks and when to apply?
It's TEDx.com/events. And then from there are filters. So you can choose by location, by date, etc. I would apply for events that are 3 months out from now and further than that. So right now it's what? Tomorrow's May 1st.
I think it's May.
Right. It's still March in my book. It's May 1st tomorrow. So my team is pitching August.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. What are the most common mistakes when starting to write your talk? I think getting too far in the clouds. You know, you may think you need a 2,000-foot view, to use the corporate cliche of the issue you're talking about, but really you want to start with something that everybody in the room can relate to, or the most people in the room can relate to. And you know, so I think, and in terms of being personal, you know, I said before that you want everything to serve the talk. Every word you say needs to add value to your idea. So it's not about being personal, like, you know, my mommy took my teddy bear away when I was 3. It's being personal, like, you know, my father read my diary when I was a teenager, and that stopped me from writing for a very long time. True story. So, and then if I were talking about, you know, writing or women's voices, or, you know, there are lots of ways that I could work that story in. And if it didn't fit the theme, then that's not the right story for me to tell.
Right.
But you don't need to, you know, when I say be personal, I don't mean that you have to bare your soul. I just mean that you have to catch on to something that is only your observation is the best way to think about it, right? If I look out the window and I see trees chasing each other, then we worry. If I look out the window and I see squirrels chasing each other around a tree, then, you know, I might think about renewal, or I might think about exercise. There are lots of ways that you could fit that story in, but it's my story because I saw it, and I get to decide what it means. You're very talking with your hands. Yeah, you know, I think, is it distracting for audiences, or is it not a huge deal? I don't know. You know, it's who I am. I think it's better to be animated than to be like a stick of wood, because the stiffer you are and the more uncomfortable you feel on stage, the more uncomfortable your audience will feel. Now, you know, you don't want to be gesturing with every word, right? It doesn't want to be like one word, one gesture, because that's crazy. But if you're doing something that, if the gesture comes from your heart, if it's animated with real emotion and not just like choreographed, like, okay, now you put your hand here, then I think it's not distracting. I
Yeah.
don't know. Marie, you might not be the right person to answer this question either since we're both Italian.
Yeah. I'm Italian. I like to talk with my hands. No, I would prefer some natural movement to, stiff and straight. And, one of the challenging things about a TED Talk is that there's no podium, right? So there's no safety net for you to stand behind and hold on to. So you do have to think about your posture. You have to think about what you look like when you're up there. And whatever comes the most natural to you, I say, as long as it's not something crazy, like, do what comes
The
naturally.
YMCA dance. If you were speaking at the YMCA and you just sort of subtly incorporated it into if anybody would notice. All right. Well, so the program we've sort of been talking about in and out in the course of this is at least 4 weeks long. If we get some more, we don't want to have to cram everybody's presentation into the last session if we need some more time. So it's 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks. The price of this is it's about 1% of what it would cost to work with us.
No, 10%.
10%. No, it's 1%.
Is it 1%?
Well, okay, it's
one decimal.
2%. It's 2%
Okay,
of what it would cost. Trust me.
A percentage.
It's a very small percentage.
You're right. You're right. It is 1%. Yeah.
Of what it would cost to work with us on a full TED Talk with all of the belts that Marie does and that I do, that's a 5-figure investment.
Yeah.
And this is barely a 3-figure investment. It's $197 for this program. It's super insane. But we wanted to do something that, as I said before, that would give people value and be fun, because I think we all need a little more fun in our lives right now. And this is the first time we're offering the program. I don't think we'll ever offer it again for $197. But I'm going to type in the sales link into the chat, and you can go. It's Bennett Inc. BENNETTINC.com/TEDx Happy Hour, all one word. And
I got it.
You got it? Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's it. And if you put the thing in front of it, then it gives us a link. And if you have, it should give us a link. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
If you have any other questions about the program, we've got a couple more minutes. You can shoot them over to us. Oh, do we have questions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does every TEDx coach their speakers and with performance and speech writing? That's on the discretion of the organizer. Some do, some don't. And it's usually about what they have available to them, because the coaches are volunteers. So, and the important thing to realize is that they're there for the organizer. You also want somebody who's advocating for you.
For you. Yeah. And if you get accepted for a talk, does TEDx cover the travel and accommodations? Wouldn't that be nice?
Nope. No, TEDx is an investment. So yeah.
Yeah. But it's a good investment. It's who's the woman we know who got her talk picked up by Big TED and then
Liz Kislick. Yeah.
What was her story? She got clients out the wazoo,
she
immediately, or she landed a big fish, or
it was and she's a leadership consultant, so this is not a small client. She had somebody contact her and hire her from the merit of her TED Talk. So it arguably is the best thing you can do for your brand recognition. I say this respectfully as somebody who loves books and writes books, and you're a writer, but people are more likely to watch your TED Talk than read your book. So,
yeah. And it's a 12-minute investment of their time versus however many hours of
Right.
reading your book.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean you shouldn't continue to write books.
Yes. Keep writing. Write your books.
Keep writing books. But yeah, I mean, and Liz's TEDx event was not some big glitzy thing. It was like a private high school or something,
Yeah.
and one of the kids had organized it as a senior project, and she spoke at it, and it was not a glamorous stage with lights and but the content of what she was saying was interesting enough and important enough that that they picked her up on Big TED.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So and if you look at Simon Sinek's video, that's this blurry video shot from the back of his conference room, right? And it's the content of the talk is so good that really just launched him into the stratosphere. So doing something like this, the sky's the limit. No matter what stage you get on, if you have a good idea, that's really the key.
Yep. Excuse me.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, I hope can you put in the chat one word of something that you got out of today's webinar, because I want to make sure we really did keep our promise of giving you some value that you can use right now. Long words.
Assurance. Oh, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Well, good. So go forth with assurance and structure.
Structure. Yep.
Only one. Apparently you got more. That's great. You are welcome.
Thank you.
And we're glad you like the information, and whether or not you take us up on our insanely inexpensive TEDx Happy Hour program, I hope you do decide to give some TED Talks, because I'm sure you have some great ideas and the world needs them.
Yeah, agreed. And always reach out to us if you need anything.
Yep.
So excellent. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Oh, wait.
4 consecutive weeks. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
folks.
Bye.
Bye.